On a cold December morning in 2023, David Harris, an elderly black man dressed in a worn coat and scuffed shoes, walked with determination toward a luxury car dealership. The streets were slick with rain, and the biting wind hinted at the approach of winter, but David was undeterred. Today marked a significant moment in his life, a chance to claim a symbol of his resilience and accomplishments. He had set his sights on purchasing a Rolls-Royce, a gesture of triumph after decades of hard work and perseverance. Despite his modest appearance, David carried with him a quiet pride and a hope of achieving something extraordinary. David Harris's journey to the dealership was not just about buying a car. It was a celebration of a lifetime of perseverance and triumph over adversity. For decades, David had lived a life of self-denial, focusing on providing for his family and instilling values of hard work, integrity, and resilience. He had raised his son, Michael Harris, in a home that prioritized character over material wealth. Those lessons bore fruit as Michael grew into a visionary entrepreneur, ultimately becoming the billionaire CEO of Harris Enterprises, a company recognized worldwide for its innovation and philanthropy. Despite Michael's success, David had always been reluctant to enjoy the benefits of his son's wealth. He had lived through unimaginable challenges, including growing up in the segregated South, where systemic racism dictated every aspect of life. David vividly recalled being denied entry to certain establishments, barred from public spaces, and subjected to relentless discrimination. Through sheer determination and unwavering resolve, he managed to rise above these hardships, providing a stable life for his family and ensuring that Michael would have opportunities that were never available to him. Over the years, Michael had repeatedly encouraged his father to indulge in something extraordinary for himself, a gesture to honor all that he had sacrificed. But David, ever humble, resisted the idea, preferring to live modestly and rely on his own hard-earned resources. However, Michael's persistence eventually wore him down. He convinced David that treating himself to a symbol of success, such as a Rolls-Royce, was not an act of vanity, but rather a celebration of his life's journey, a journey marked by resilience, dignity, and triumph. For David, this decision was deeply symbolic. The Rolls-Royce represented more than luxury. It was a testament to his struggles, his victories, and the enduring legacy he had built for his family. It was a way to honor the sacrifices he had made, to break the cycle of poverty and discrimination, ensuring that his son could achieve greatness. Walking toward the dealership that morning, David carried the weight of his past and the hope of a moment that celebrated how far he had come. As David Harris stepped into the pristine Rolls-Royce dealership, the warm air of the showroom provided a sharp contrast to the bitter November chill outside. The dealership was immaculate, with gleaming marble floors and luxury cars displayed like treasures in a gallery. Despite its opulence, David felt no intimidation. His quiet confidence carried him forward. However, the moment his eyes met those of the receptionist, Madison, the atmosphere changed. Madison, a young woman in her mid-30s with a sleek ponytail and designer attire, was accustomed to catering to wealthy clientele. Her job was to welcome those who could afford the extravagant vehicles and subtly discourage those who did not fit the profile. As she glanced at David, her eyes narrowed, betraying an immediate judgment. His modest appearance, worn coat, scuffed shoes, and weathered face seemed out of place in this world of luxury. Without hesitation, Madison made a snap decision. David Harris did not belong here. With a condescending smirk, she greeted him with thinly veiled skepticism. "Good morning," David said politely, tipping his hat. "I'm here to look at one of your Rolls-Royce models." Madison blinked, her skepticism morphing into outright disbelief. "Are you sure you're in the right place?" she asked, her tone clipped and dismissive. David remained composed, unbothered by her tone. "Yes, ma'am," he replied calmly. I'm interested in purchasing a car. Her laughter, quiet but cruel, echoed in the otherwise quiet showroom. We don't offer tours of the showroom, sir, she said, sarcasm lacing her words. These cars are for serious buyers. Undeterred, David explained that he was indeed serious and had done extensive research on the model he wanted. But Madison only grew more dismissive. Do you even know how much these cars cost? She asked, as though speaking to a child. David quietly opened his notebook, showing the specific model he had chosen. I've done my research, he said firmly. I know what I'm looking for. But Madison wasn't convinced. Look, she said, leaning forward with an air of superiority. I don't know who you think you're fooling, but you're not buying a car here. These cars aren't for people like you. Her words were sharp, cutting through the air with a sting that David knew all too well. Although he had faced discrimination many times in his life, the moment still hurt. Madison's blatant prejudice and dismissive attitude reduced him, in her eyes, to nothing more than an outsider. However, David stood his ground, unwilling to let her dismiss his presence so easily. David Harris, unfazed by Madison Reed's dismissive behavior, stood his ground with quiet dignity. Though her words dripped with sarcasm and prejudice, he refused to let her intimidate him. I am serious about purchasing a car, he said, firmly, his voice calm but resolute. I've come here with the intention of buying one of your phantom models. Madison raised an eyebrow, her disbelief evident. She glanced again at his tattered coat and worn shoes, her expression a mixture of skepticism and disdain. Do you even know how much these cars cost? She asked, her tone condescending. A Rolls-Royce isn't exactly in everyone's budget. David met her gaze without flinching. Yes, I do, he replied simply, his confidence unwavering. Still unconvinced, Madison let out a small, mocking laugh. Look, she said, leaning forward on the desk. I don't know who you think you're fooling, but you're not buying a car here. These cars aren't for people like you. Her words were cutting, her judgment crystal clear. To her, David was an outsider who didn't belong in this world of opulence. David felt the sting of her words, but he refused to let them show on his face. My son, Michael Harris, he said quietly, but with authority, is the CEO of Harris Enterprises. I'm here with his support to purchase this car. For a moment, Madison hesitated. The name Michael Harris was familiar, even to her. As the CEO of one of the most prominent companies in the country, Michael's reputation was well known, and his success was undeniable. Despite this revelation, Madison's prejudice clouded her judgment. She smirked, dismissing the possibility that David was telling the truth. I don't care if you claim to know the president, she retorted coldly. You're not buying a car here. Now, I think it's time for you to leave before I have to call security. Her words hung in the air, sharp and cutting. David stood there, a mix of frustration and resolve welling up inside him. He had spent a lifetime facing such blatant discrimination, yet it still hurt deeply, each time. Still, he maintained his composure, refusing to give Madison the satisfaction of seeing him falter. Her cruelty, however, had turned what was meant to be a moment of triumph into a confrontation fueled by prejudice. As David Harris stood silently, processing the receptionist's cruel words, the glass doors of the dealership swung open. His son, Michael Harris, entered, his tailored suit and commanding presence instantly drawing attention. Michael had come to meet his father, unaware of the situation that had unfolded. The moment he saw the look on David's face, a mix of hurt and quiet frustration, Michael knew something was wrong. Dad, what's going on? He asked, his voice filled with concern as he glanced between his father and the receptionist. Madison Reed, who had been so dismissive moments earlier, froze in place as realization dawned. Michael Harris wasn't just any customer. He was the billionaire CEO of Harris Enterprises. Overwhelmed by fear and regret, Madison's confident demeanor crumbled, replaced by visible panic at the consequences of her actions. As the tension in the showroom grew, Mark Caldwell, the dealership manager, emerged from his office. A tall, stern man in his early 50s, Mark surveyed the scene with a sharp eye. Addressing Michael Harris, he said with a polished tone, "Mr. Harris, I apologize for any misunderstanding. We greatly value your business." However, his brief glance at David betrayed a flicker of subtle disdain, one that didn't escape David's notice. Before Mark could continue, David spoke up, his voice calm but firm. "There's no misunderstanding, I hope," he said, the weight of exhaustion evident in his tone. "I came here to buy a car, but your staff made it clear I don't belong." Mark hesitated, clearly uncomfortable, while Madison remained silent, her face pale with regret. Sensing the gravity of the situation, Michael stepped forward, his voice low but brimming with controlled anger. "You treated my father as if he were nothing," he said, locking eyes with Mark. "Do you have any idea who he is, what he's been through? He's the reason I'm standing here today, and you judged him based on his appearance." Both Mark and Madison stood frozen, confronted with the consequences of their actions, as Michael's words hung in the air. Michael Harris stepped forward, his voice steady but filled with unmistakable anger. "You treated my father like he was invisible," he said, his piercing gaze moving between Mark Caldwell and Madison Reed. "Do you have any idea what this man has sacrificed, what he's endured to give me the life I have today?" His words carried the weight of his father's struggles and the pride he felt for the man who had shaped him. Michael continued, his tone firm. "My father worked harder than anyone I know to overcome barriers you could never imagine. And you judged him, dismissed him, based on his appearance. That's not just unprofessional, it's unacceptable." His disappointment was evident as he added, "This dealership is supposed to represent excellence and respect. Instead, it just displayed prejudice and ignorance. This kind of behavior has no place here or anywhere." His words left the room in stunned silence, the weight of his condemnation impossible to ignore. This powerful story is a reminder of the importance of standing up against racism and treating everyone with respect, regardless of their appearance or background. We invite you to share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever faced or witnessed similar discrimination? Your stories matter, and by sharing them, you contribute to raising awareness and fostering change. If you believe in equality and the fight against injustice, we encourage you to take a stand, like this video to show your support, and subscribe to our channel for more real-life stories that inspire, challenge, and shed light on important issues. Don't forget to share this video with others to spread the message far and wide. Together, we can create a world where everyone is treated with dignity and respect. Let's keep the conversation going because every voice counts in the fight for justice. Thank you for watching and being part of this movement.